Got tissue that I wish you saw. Sarcastic Mr. Know-It-All. Close your eyes and I'll kiss you, 'cause with the birds I'll share. With the birds I'll share this lonely view. And with the birds I'll share this lonely view. And push me up against the wall, young Tucker girl in a...
As you know, I love horror movies, but the ones I tend to love the most are those that manage to stick out from the rest of them. I've already mentioned The Nightmare on Elm Street and the Evil Dead trilogy, but there is also another one that is able to become its own thing, and that's Suspiria. It's about a girl who goes to a ballet school that is all too abnormal. I can't go deep into the plot because most of this movie is a series of scary things happening. You might think that would cause the movie to be poor, but with how well it's made, it makes you forget about the puzzling storyline. For one thing, the art direction is just beautiful. A good friend of mine said that this movie is what you would get if Disney made a horror movie, and I think that's the best way to describe it. It's full of bright colors that you usually see in an animated film. Even the director, Dario Argento, had a cinematographer watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to show exactly what he wanted the film to look like. Also, although I don't usually get scared at movies, I think this one came closest to actually creeping me out. There's plenty of bloody murders and shocking imagery that catch me off guard, and had I seen this movie when I was little, I probably would have been crying. So, despite the fact that the story kinda loses all coherence by the last act, it's the wonderful cinematography and beautiful imagery that makes this a favorite of mine. I hear they're planning on remaking this movie, which kinda disappoints me. Why remake something that's fine just the way it is? Only Dario Argento can make a movie this beautifully unsettling. No other filmmaker should try to top it. Oh well, what can you do? Suspiria is a movie that gives an artsy feel to the horror genre. Next, we have a movie that created its own subgenre. It's amazing how well it's put together, and becomes more than just a movie that belongs to one specific genre. That film is Die Hard. Bruce Willis plays a New York City police officer named John McClane, who's visiting Los Angeles to meet his wife for a Christmas party. However, the building his wife works at is taken over by a German terrorist played by Alec Rickman, so John, who's trapped inside the building, must take the terrorists down from the inside. Action movies usually get trashed by critics, but this film not only works great as an action movie, but a movie by itself. The characters are all natural and they react to situations realistically. For example, when John McClane gets hurt, he shows it, and you feel his pain. Speaking of John McClane, he's the live-action Bugs Bunny. He's going to do whatever it takes to stop the terrorists physically. That is, if his smart aleck mouth doesn't stop them first. Plus, this movie is filled with hilarious quotes that come at the right time, never feeling like they're shoved in just to be comedic relief. Finally, I love the interactions John has with the people outside the building. He talks to them by using a walkie-talkie, which leads to some great comedy, as well as character development. Everything about this film just works. That's the best way I can describe it. Even though this is an action movie, I'm not waiting for action scenes to pop up. I'm so attached to the characters and humor that I think the action can take its sweet time getting into place. However, when the action shows up, it's quite impressive. My favorite set piece is when John dodges an explosion by jumping out of the building with a fire hose tied to him. That makes me jump out of my seat every time. So, Die Hard isn't your typical action movie. It has a fun time with itself, and I have lots of fun watching it. It's a Christmas movie with a huge kick. Thought Die Hard was exciting? Well, you haven't seen anything yet. Allow me to introduce you to Chinese action director John Woo, who helped turn over-the-top action into a visual spectacle. And, in my opinion, his crowning achievement is hard-boiled. A tough cop has to go undercover with a special agent in order to stop a mobster and his crew. Yeah, the plot is rather simple, but whatever gives John Woo an excuse to shoot some of the most beautiful action scenes ever filmed, then I'm just fine with it. That's the main reason I love this film. The action. Usually, I prefer characters and plot, but the action is so much fun to watch that I forget what the plot is about. Why is it so amazing? Well, for one thing, there's lots of it, so you don't have to worry about this movie being slow. There are plenty of gunfights to keep you entertained, and some of them go on for quite a while. Also, you think bullets had wings because they constantly fly in this movie. Objects explode, bodies fly all over the place, it's no holds barred. There is also some technical innovations in this film. A big example is the scene in the hospital that's one long take, and it doesn't make a cut until the scene is over. Not many action movies do that, but John Woo made it entertaining to watch on top of breaking new ground. In my opinion, Hard Boiled is THE action movie. It pushes the bar so high that no other action movie can top it, which is why I love it so much. Time for a fairly recent movie to make my list. It's one of the most creative movies that I can think of in recent memory. Although it was loved by critics, many people seem to forget about it. Well, I hope I'm not the only one who remembers Coraline. In this stop-motion animated film, a little girl and her family move into a new home. The girl doesn't like the new house, and she's had it with her family. Wanting to run away, she stumbles upon a fantasy world that has the same people she knows, but they're more tolerable to her. However, her other mother grows too attached to her and won't let her leave. I get a little offended when people say that stop motion is a dying art. True, it's not as common as CGI, but there is just certain charm to it that CGI doesn't have. When I watch this movie, I'm always amazed to see all the spectacular visuals in it, and I have a hard time believing that human hands went into making it. Also, the art direction is beautiful. There are several bright colors to pump up the cheerful scenes, but when the movie gets dark, the colors fade, setting the perfect eerie tone. Speaking of this movie being dark, it's a throwback to the kids' movies of our time. The movies that seemed so cheerful and fun on the outside, but they had evil and darkness lurking on the inside. Also, you'd think Coraline would be an annoying character, but she's actually relatable because I'm sure we've all had that moment when we wanted to run away from home. However, in the end, she learns that home is the safest and happiest place she can be, because what's outside can be a lot worse. So, Coraline is quickly becoming a cult classic, which I'm happy for because we need more stop-motion animated films out there, and this one is a perfect example of that. Let's go back to another classic film. As you can tell, I love classic movies because they just have certain magic to them that most modern films lack. Most classics are able to make great movies out of the most ridiculous stories, and it doesn't get any more ridiculous than Bringing Up Baby. In this film, Cary Grant plays a stressed-out paleontologist who meets a free-spirited lady, played by Katharine Hepburn, who has received a leopard to give to her aunt. Mistaking Grant's character for a zoologist, Hepburn's character makes him go to her country home to help take care of the leopard, and the two of them slowly fall in love. This movie exploits a unique form of comedy called screwball comedy, meaning that the role of the female is made dominant to her male counterpart, and the film is filled with farcical situations and fast-paced wit. When it comes to my taste in comedy, I usually like to be constantly laughing, and this movie is one that causes me to do so. I love how the romance between Grant and Hepburn takes its time. They don't just see each other and fall in love. I actually understand how the romance builds, and I love finally seeing them get together. Also, whoever trained that leopard knew what he or she was doing. The leopard becomes one of the best actors as it's able to stand still, go where it needs to go, and growl when it's needed. Finally, the comedy is amazing. Most of the comedy comes from characters reacting to Baby, Grant and Hepburn bantering with each other, and several other plot points that I don't want to spoil. Like I said, I love movies that stand out. If a movie about a male and female duo who are trying to take care of a leopard isn't unique, then I don't know what is. It's time to add another horror film to the list. Now, when it comes to horror films, you can either take them as seriously as you can to scare people, or you can just go all out and have fun with it. Well, I can't think of any other horror director who has so much fun making his movies than George A. Romero, and I can't think of any of his movies that shows how much fun he has than Dawn of the Dead. There's a zombie apocalypse occurring, and 4 people shelter themselves in an abandoned mall, trying to survive the zombies, each other, and the temptations the mall offers them. Right off the bat, the zombies are attacking. Romero doesn't wait around. He smacks you right in the face as the credits are rolling, not even giving you time to prepare. As much as I can handle some movies that take their time getting started, I love it when movies get the plot going as the film starts. That way, I'm enjoying the movie right from the start. Also, the gore in this film is still amazing to watch. I don't care what you say, When I see people getting shot or stabbed in this movie, I have a hard time believing those are actually makeup effects pulling those off. Once again, I love watching the characters interact with each other. They come up with plans to survive, and they work well together to pull them off. I feel sorrowful when I see them die. Plus, like I said, Romero has fun making his movies, and he shows it by adding his own quirky sense of humor to them. The way some of the zombies are killed make me feel like I'm watching a live-action R-rated Tom and Jerry cartoon. Although this film is entertaining to watch, it has some social satire to it, which is also common in Romero's movies. It basically says that consumerism has turned common people into zombies. That's hilarious, but sad if you think about it. It's true, people are obsessed with buying things for the sheer purpose of buying them. They don't even feel human anymore. So, Dawn of the Dead is a fun ride of a film that manages to provoke some thought. Sticking with the horror genre, here we have a movie that I love so much that I'm jealous of it. It's a movie that I actually wanted to make when I was a kid, and I had no idea it was a real film until I discovered it a few years ago. It's a film that you've always wished was real when you were a kid, not knowing that it actually exists. It's the movie that is perfect for Halloween, The Monster Squad. Dracula has gathered up his monster friends and is close to taking over the world. So, a group of kids who run their own monster club must stop Dracula and his group before he gains full power from an ancient amulet. When I found out this was a real movie, words couldn't describe how hyped I was, and I'm happy to say that it lived up to my expectations. I always wanted to see a movie that was about a bunch of kids fighting against Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and the Gill Man. It was the movie idea that was just too good for my imagination, so I was so happy to see that it was real. Childhood nostalgia aside, the child actors are great. They're able to show that they're taking their role seriously, but they're also having as much fun as the viewers who are watching it. The dialogue is also great, with quotes so cheesy that you can't help but to appreciate them. Also, the classic monsters get some upgrades, and they look fantastic that you feel like you can touch them. This is how you update the looks of characters properly. You make them to where they look new, but you can also recognize them without somebody having to tell you who they are. Finally, this film just has an overall tone of being one fun ride. It doesn't take itself too seriously, instead just delivers the goods. If you wanted to see a movie with your favorite monsters fighting a bunch of kids, then this is what you're gonna get. It's one of the movies that I watch every Halloween to make my inner child go bananas. I really love fantasy movies, and I think it's a real shame that not many are made as much as they used to be. However, that only makes me appreciate the few fantasies we do have a lot more, and one of those said films is Time Bandits. A little boy goes on a long journey with a group of time-traveling dwarfs who steal treasures for a living. However, they get caught up with an evil sorcerer appropriately named Evil, played by David Warner. Terry Gilliam is one of my favorite directors, and of his movies I've seen, this one is my favorite. It's full of so much imagination that a lot of it is hard to take in all at once. The bandits go to so many wondrous locations that are so well put together that I can't believe they're not actually real. They also encounter several creatures along their journey, and the makeup work and special effects that are used to create them is once again grade A work. Finally, this is another movie that just has fun with itself. Of course, it's written by both Gilliam and Michael Palin, two ex-members of Monty Python, so you can tell this movie is going to be full of hilarious moments. According to this movie, Napoleon Bonaparte was actually a puppet show loving man-child. That's something you're not going to learn in history class. Also, Evil and his henchmen share some humorous dialogue. I swear, you can put David Warner in anything and he'll still be amazing. Finally, the reason I love fantasy movies is because I love seeing things that I don't normally see, which is what I look for in every movie I watch. This movie has a dreamlike quality to it, as you see things you'd most likely see while you're sleeping. And it also has the nightmarish tones of bad dreams to project some thrills as well. I guess that's why the tagline itself says, it's every dream you ever had, including the bad ones. So, Time Bandits is a fantastic adventure that I love going on over and over again. It seems most people consider this a Christmas movie, but I see it as more than just that. I think it works well as a movie by itself. Even though it does have some Christmas themes to it, I think It's a Wonderful Life has a lot more going for it. It's Christmas Eve and everybody is praying for an angel to look over George Bailey, played by the always amazing Jimmy Stewart. So, an angel named Clarence, played by Henry Travers, gets to know who George is and shows George what everybody's life would be like without him. Like I said, I see this film as more than just a Christmas movie. I see it as a movie that just happens to take place during Christmas. The main plot of this film does not concern Christmas, and instead focuses on the impact one man can have on the world. This movie is so heartwarming because it makes you consider how well you've influenced the lives of others. We all have, in some form or another, made the life of somebody else better, which is why we all deserve to exist. We're not individual waves, we're all part of the ocean. Also, this film could have been really cheesy and corny, but it doesn't go over the top with how cheerful it is. It downplays itself to where it's not rubbing its happiness in our faces, and actually gets sad in a few scenes, and it also knows when to offer some lighthearted humor to brighten the mood. Even though this movie is 2.5 hours long, the minutes fly by like seconds, and every scene is entertaining in some form or another. And even though I'm not a religious person, this movie doesn't rub Christianity in my face. Instead, it allows me to keep my belief that individuals are all special and unique, and none of them deserve to die. I believe that if more people were to watch this movie, the world would be a lot better place to live in. When it comes to movies based off TV shows, they usually have the potential of failing. But when you make a movie based off an animated series that is made by the crew of the show, then you have a recipe for success. That success is best shown in The Simpsons movie. So, our favorite family becomes a target of the U.S. when Homer pollutes the town lake to the point where a dome is dropped over the town by the Environmental Protection Agency. So now, the family is on the run until they find out their town is in danger of destruction, so they head back to set everything right. Yes, The Simpsons is one of my favorite shows, so it makes sense that the theatrical adaptation would be one of my favorite movies. Unlike some movies based off TV shows that feel like extended episodes, this movie shows off its movie budget with slicker animation, a grand scale setting, and too many jokes to count. This movie is a throwback to the classic era of The Simpsons. As much as I love the newer episodes of The Simpsons, it's nice to see the fast-paced gags, the heartfelt moments, and the well-written characterizations once again. Also, we get Albert Brooks as the main villain, Russ Cargill. Albert Brooks always gives 110% when he's playing a Simpsons character, especially if it's a villain. You can tell just by the sound of his voice that he's enjoying every second of his performance, and I enjoy every second of watching him. This movie also gives some moments that we didn't see in the show. I love how Lisa actually gets involved in a successful relationship, and I also love seeing Bart have some bonding time with Ned Flanders of all people. And Homer's antics are taken to the next level in this film. Finally, it wouldn't be The Simpsons without clever satire. This time around, environmentalists are the victim of the sharp-witted humor. This film basically says that environmentalists would go to the lengths of blowing up full cities just to prevent pollution, and even makes a joke that it's the EPA that's running the government, not the president. Being an environmentalist myself, I find that to be hilarious. So, The Simpsons movie takes everything that's great about the show, and everything that's great about movies, and puts them all together to make this gem of modern filmmaking.
'Cause with the birds that shed it's a lonely view, and with the birds that shed it's a lonely